afternoon. It's a privilege to come up. We're going to get right into the lesson. Because I think it's a great sermon where we're going to look at today just on how to move the hearts of people, which is great. I sent it out, the notes. I just kind of tagged on Matthew's email instead of write my own. So if you want to open up your notes, send it along to people. But yeah, we're going to get into the lesson of how to move the hearts of people. I do want to thank everyone organizing the service today. Thank you, song leaders. Thank you, everyone that did the welcome and the sermon and the Chinese service. You guys all do such an incredible job, so I do want to thank you for that. But leaders today, we're going to look at how to move the hearts of people. See, Jesus was the ultimate motivator of hearts. And see, we as Christians, we as people that imitate Jesus, need to also be great movers of hearts. See, even the purpose of leaders meeting today is actually training us and training you how to move the hearts of people, how to use the scriptures to motivate others. See, be it moving the hearts of non-Christians to love God, or helping disciples to love God so much that they do great things for Him. Not for you, and so they'll come over and do your laundry because they're a great servant. No, to do great things for God. And so Jesus gave His love and His heart to the people right up to the very end of His life. As you see in the notes there, John 13, verse 1, it says, Jesus knew that the hour had come for Him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved His own who were in the world, He loved them to the end. And so one thing you can be assured of is if you pull your heart back from people, you will never motivate them. When they hurt you, when you pull your heart back, they won't be motivated by you anymore. So it's really hard, but we need to give our hearts fully and again and again. And that means you're going to get hurt a lot. But that's exactly what Jesus did. And so the question then becomes, what moves the hearts of men? What moves the hearts of women? A good place to start is looking at what moves your heart. What moves your own heart in ways to glorify God or just change? What moved your heart to become a Christian? What has kept you faithful as a Christian through all of the hard times, through the difficulties, through the challenges? What has motivated you to change things in your character and give up things? You know, what motivates you is not necessarily what motivates others. So you must study the Bible. You must study the church, study people, study history, study present trends, previous trends, to really understand what motivates people today. It's crazy how quickly you can become out of touch. You know, I've been out of school 6 years now, out of high school. And what I thought was cool when I was in school, the kids these days, you know, that's lame, that's old news, we don't use those words anymore, these kind of things. And you know, you're like, what am I, a young adult? I feel like, no, I'm still hip. I'm still with it. That's even laughing at that word. We're like, that's not a word you use. Like, we just become out of touch so quickly. And so things are always changing, and we have to stay up to date with all of it if we want to be as effective as possible. And then we have to learn to be effective at changing people. Because obviously we're trying to get people to heaven, not just current trends or whatever it is. So ultimately, when it comes to the principles, we need to be learning from Jesus, obviously. The early church was founded on leaders like Peter, who had learnt from Jesus to be effective at persuading large amounts of people to change. Peter witnessed. He watched Jesus go and move the masses, and the 5,000, he fed them, and did the 4,000 as well. And so he had no doubt. He had no lack of faith when it came to moving the 3,000 that they baptized. In Acts 2, verse 40, it says there, with many other words, he warned them and he pleaded with them, save yourselves from this corrupt generation. Those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to the number that day. So his preaching changed people. That's the purpose of preaching. It should move people's hearts. See, persuading people to be godly, though, is not an easy task. If you actually just think about the concept for a second, that give up everything, and I will give you nothing in return materialistically. Try and sell that to someone. That doesn't really sound very convincing. You know, it's funny, like after being a disciple, becoming a Christian, it's quite easy to actually go into a sales kind of role because there's an actual product. You know, there's something they can see that you're selling, and then you learn all the godly characteristics of, you know, inspiring people and motivating people, moving their hearts. And so it's very easy to do sales. We have Chindala was great at it, Sarah, who just got married, all of these people you see, they would just rake in the sales. It was a natural for them because they had the godly characteristics and they had a product you could see. But it's not as easy when you go out and try and convert a Muslim, an atheist. There's nothing visual for me to show you and be like, do this, or this is what I'm giving you. It's all kind of, imaginary almost. And yet it's not. And so it's not easy. That's a given. Most people are terrible at it, and they resort to using authority. I'm a leader, so listen to me. What I says goes. They gave me the title. Look at the little plaque on my desk. So I'm the boss man. And I'm standing on the stage, so listen to me. And that's what people do. Or they'll resort to bullying, guilt, emotional blackmail, moodiness, or even fear. Even the religious use it, and sometimes some of you in the kingdom. I was thinking back on my own life. I'm quite a sinner. And when I was in year 12, so the final year of high school, they elected me as school captain, which is basically they give you a badge, you say a few speeches throughout the year, and you're meant to be like a role model, represent the school. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I saw it more of as, I got the badge. I'm big boss man, using my authority. And so I remember one time I was at a get-together of friends, if you understand what I mean, and probably had a few too many lemonades, And and I remember, I was going off at this girl. She was like the president or treasury of the school council. I don't even know. I can't remember all these things anymore. But I remember I saw a video. Someone, they post photos or videos to your Facebook every birthday and stuff. And I just watching it, I was like, because I'm yelling at this girl, I'm the school captain. I will ruin your school career. And just going off. I was like, what is that? And so even in my own life, using this authority or power, this false power that I've been given, a little badge to be like, I can turn people's lives around. But Jesus had the exact opposite influence. Look here in Matthew 20, verse 25. It says, Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. It was awesome going up over the weekend and seeing the Brisbane inaugural. I'm probably going to talk about it a lot, but it was awesome. And there was no kind of hierarchy or titles like Joe and Kerry. No one picked them up from the airport. Figure it your own way out there, Joe. You're a Christian just like me. But everyone that came and visited from, the Sydney church, from the New Zealand church, they were just there to serve. There was no, I'm, Ian Clegg, so, respect me or anything. It was just like, what can I do? Pete was there helping out, Kevin, Terry, Chantel, Sharif was there. And they just looked at, okay, there's people that need talking to, there's food that needs serving. They were just looking at it as, I'm a Christian, I'm here to serve. And that's exactly what it's about. And so Jesus here, he doesn't lead in worldly ways. Instead, in Isaiah, it actually teaches about Jesus' way of motivating. Isaiah chapter 42, verse 1, it says, here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom I delight. I put my spirit on him, and he will bring justice to the nations. He will not shout or cry out or raise his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. In faithfulness he will bring forth justice. He was so gentle in his motivation. He would not bruise a reed or snuff out a near dying flame. You think of a candle when it's, on its last legs, it's got hardly any wax left. It's getting down and it's kind of just flickering, and any breath or a little bit of wind could just blow it out. And Jesus was so gentle that even if someone's faith was just like that dying flame, it's so weak, he could turn it into a massive flames and make it big again instead of letting it go out. How many times have you said that little jab, that little comment, that little cold breath on someone's dying flame? It's something like, serves them right, should have known better. Or, I told you so. Or it's something like, shouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have done it that way. All these kind of things, as opposed to choosing to to give that loving moment. Yeah, then maybe they messed up. But are you there to support them during it? And sometimes that's a difference between someone staying faithful and someone falling away is that their flame is weak. But what are we doing about it? Are we imitating Jesus and building up their flame, or letting it be snuffed out? You know, human hearts, they're fragile. And we must be aware of that. I think too often we can kind of think, oh, they should have thick skin, or, Jesus, look what he went through, so you should have the same kind of thick skin. But we're weak. We're pathetic. I'm pathetic. And so we just have fragile hearts. And so our conversations can actually do so much more harm than they can do good. You might even go, but I told him the truth. I showed him the scriptures. I read him the Bible. But was it with grace? Was it out of a loving heart that you brought it up? The truth is very easy to point out, especially when you're not in that situation. You can look back and be like, yeah, that's wrong. But how often have the sisters said, bro, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And in that same way, our tones, our facial expressions, they all can actually have such a big impact. I was even, the brothers, I was walking along evangelizing, yesterday or something with them, and they know, anytime I pull, I'm like, so, Gabriel. They immediately know what I'm getting at. You probably can hear the tone, you're like, oh yeah, I know what he's implying there, what conversation he's trying to bring up. But tones and all these kind of things, these little off comments, they have so much impact in either a positive or a negative way. I remember even when it was just me and Chris and this guy we, studied the Bible with, converted, he moved in with us. And eventually he got to the point, he's like, I don't want to do it anymore. And as we're kind of sitting, having a household meeting where he's like, I don't want to continue in this. I want to live with you guys. He's bringing up things of like, it's not even that, you guys actively treat me poorly. It's these microaggressions, these kind of side comments and these looks that I get from you guys that just, I feel so judged or condemned. And it was really convicting to just realize these tiny things can actually have such an impact on our hearts. And so we're going to get into how can we fix this? Point number one, what changes people when becoming a Christian? It's great that we're starting off the year. We want to go and do great things for God and convert lots of people. But how do I actually get someone to become a Christian? First, God draws people to him via us. John 6:44 says, no one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. I will raise him up at the last day. So then, God obviously draws them to us. We are to be the instrument in helping them become a Christian. But there's a couple of things to learn from this, Firstly, you're not awesome. You walk around saying, oh, look what I did, I, me, my, myself, these kind of things. It's God. We're simply mopping up open people. God will be fruitful, in spite of you, with you, regardless. But the question is, will he use you? Does he want to use you if you walk around thinking, look at me, look at all that I'm doing? And so, I even think about, it's awesome we're celebrating the 10th year this coming Sunday. But you think about Sydney in its first year, that, there was a couple, they were late to their church, they Googled, what's a local church, they pop in, walk in the door, and, those are now our world sector leader shepherds, Len and Kira. Who did that? It was God. No one invited them, they just walked in. Or even the Themis and a friend just walked in the door off the internet, and now she's helping lead Hong Kong with Chi and doing great things over there. But whose victory is that? Well, it's God's. Even as we're up there in Brisbane, there was this girl, I think her name's Rebecca, or something like that, yeah. And so she was down in Sydney. I was just chatting to Steph about it. She was down in Sydney for a few days, like just the shortest time, and she was a Sunday. She's like, well, I've got to go to church. It's Sunday. And so she looks up, closest church to me, it was us. She walks in the door, Steph gets connected, and she just did an incredible job of just making her feel loved. The day after she came to church, it was actually her birthday. So Steph takes her out for dinner and said, you can't be alone on your birthday, that's conviction right there, that's love. But yeah, really just poured her heart into her, even though she's only here a few days, maybe she won't become a Christian. But Steph didn't look at it that way. She was like, this woman needs, she's coming to our church, God's put her in our life, let me just love her. And so, she then went back to Queensland, where she was from, kept following up with us online, like watching and stuff like that, and knew that we were sending a church up there to Brisbane. And so then she, moved back in with her parents to rearrange her finances so she could afford to come and join the church when it finally planted. And then, the inaugural comes and she kind of just shows up like, here I am, come study the Bible with me. I want to become a Christian. And it's just awesome to just see her heart and how much the girls have worked behind the scenes. But who really did that? It was God. 5 minutes before Steph met her, she was just a random stranger on the street and God brought her in. Or even there was a guy that reached out to Mel 3 years ago. And then he moved up to Brisbane and he's been watching the sermons and services online for 3 years. And then he shows up to Brisbane halfway through the service, is like, here I am, I told you so, I'm coming out. And who did that? It's all God. Like we are just mopping up open people. But you have to understand that even janitors, the guys who's mop, need training in how to clean properly. Have you ever gone to mop up or sweep up something and end up making it more of a mess? There's many times I used to work at a kitchen. And you're cleaning up at the end of the night, and grease and oil gets everywhere. And you're going to sweep and mop and stuff, and it's more sticky than when you started. And you're like, why did I even bother? I should have just left it. But that can happen in the kingdom too. That God brings us an open people, and we don't know how to handle it. We don't ask enough advice. We don't use the right detergent, whatever it is, and end up messing them up more than if they hadn't actually come to church at all. And so what motivates people from being, just an open visitor at church to actually becoming a Christian? Because we can easily push people away if we're not careful. Well, let's start by reviewing what motivated you to become a Christian. Okay. We could go around the room and ask everyone, but as this sermon's been preached before, that's already been done. And so I'm going to go through some of the things that people shared motivated them to become Christians. Some of the answers people given. They said, the Bible. Seeing I was lost, a fear of hell, or the cross, the contents of the Bible. It was great, like studying with Callum, why he initially came out it was more of a fear of hell. He was like, I've heard about this hell place, I don't want to go there. And so that brought him along. Someone challenging my way of thinking and my emotions. We are so emotionally led these days. The society we live in, follow your heart, these kind of things. And so challenging that and saying, I don't care what your emotions feel or think right now. This is the truth. People are motivated by that. Friendships. God put me in a place of loneliness, and then I saw the love of disciples. Maddie was out sharing last week and met this friend who has been here 7 months and has not made a single friend. No one's come and just tried to reach out, get in touch, just build a friendship. The people are lonely. They're looking for something. Even up in Brisbane, there was this guy that came along, and he had moved to Brisbane after ending or whether he ended or not, but finishing a 10-year relationship. And so he'd moved to Brisbane to just start a new life. People are just lonely. They're looking for something to just really put their hope in. I think living examples of people genuinely excited about God, doing what God wants while having fun. Most people don't go to church these days, most people our age, because it's boring. Sit, stand, sing a hymn, yes, all these kind of things. It's boring. And so why would you want to come and spend time with people that aren't going to chat to you, and the coffee's bad and the building's cold? You're like, of course I don't want to come to that. You guys are weird. Or even, and I know Joe was kind of sharing about this at his midweek lesson, that this youth leader from, Hillsong, because it's all kind of fallen apart, him and his 2 teens that he was kind of youth leading, I guess, came along. And, so Joe goes and asks him, what do you think of service? Like, is your church that you're going to at the moment really going to teach this guy how to be a great youth leader? Are they training him? And they're like, nah, not really. And he's like, well, what do you think? Talking to the guy. And he's like, yeah, I don't think they will. He's like, all right, we'll sit in every single Bible study this week with Solomon for 3 weeks. I want to give you a challenge. 3 weeks, just come and sit at Solomon's feet, and he will train you to be a youth leader. And the guy, obviously had sat through the sermon, seen the fire that Solomon preached, and saw that this guy wants to go and do God's will. That he wants to go and live it out. Of course, I'd rather spend time, 3 weeks with this guy instead of, churches teaching the same thing and not even going to train me. And so people want to see just living examples. You know, we see photos and posts coming back from Fiji. And it's awesome to see Paul and the gang just doing it. They're on the bus, they're singing, you know, the coconuts, the beach. I don't know, they're just living their best life in Fiji. But even how they got their midweek venue, which they got it for free, and their Sunday venue for free, is because there's a minister there whose church is dying, and he sees that it's dying, and so he's asked, Paul, please come and take over my church. Please be the minister, because obviously you've got something that I don't. He's got something to figure out, because he's living it out. And so people need living examples, and it's awesome that we have that here put into practice. You know, another example is seeing a godly Christian household, a household in order, a peace. And you know, people come out to Bible talks, they see how the Christians live, they see even the cleanliness or the lack of cleanliness. So maybe be convicted by that if you need to. But even, we had a Mandy come out, you know, who's Joe and Kerry's friend from the ICOC, been a disciple, 30 years or so. And she came along to our Bible talk on Friday, which was chaotic, because we did a combined Bible talk, because it was Australia Day, let's have a barbecue, it'll be great on the grass. And the barbecues were closed. So we're like, all right, improvise. We're doing it in the brother's house. And so we squish, I don't know how many people, it was over 30. I would have to say over 30 people into this, fancy newer apartment. And we managed to make it fit. We all sweated a bit too much, but that's all right. We managed to make it work. And Mandy, who's, she's been she's seen brother's household, she's seen sister house from, the 80s all the way up. And so she asked her, I was like, she asked one of the sisters, do you live here? And she's like, no, the brothers live. And she's like, this is a brother's house? So, there's a hats off to the brothers there. But yeah, like our standard of a godly Christian household, not in just the cleanliness, but in the unity, can really move people's hearts. I think the convictions of Christians. When I first visited the church 4 or 5 years ago, I came down, I had a girlfriend at the time. I thought I was a Christian. I wasn't. The girlfriend I had, she was more into like New Age spirituality, palm reading, crystals, all that kind of stuff. And so my sister says, hey, you're flying out of Sydney to Hawaii or whatever. Come and I'll arrange you guys a place to stay so you don't have to pay for a hotel or whatever. It's like, sweet. This is why you have family, for stuff like this. And so we go and we drop our bags at the sister's house and whatnot. And then she's like, all right, yeah, and Jordan, your girlfriend will stay here. And I've arranged, you can stay at the brother's house. I was like, brother's house? No, I'll just sleep here on the floor. Like, I'm not sleeping somewhere else. Like, my girlfriend's here, I'll just sleep here. And she's like, what? You're not sleeping here? This is where girls live. And like, I was shocked that she was shocked, and she was like shocked that it's like, you're a boy. Oh my God, like, it just doesn't. And she was like not backing down. I was so offended. I don't go and hang out with these stupid brothers I've never met, which actually, I really enjoyed my time at the brothers, so my stance changed. But hers did not. She was not letting me stay at the sister's house, and that conviction actually won me over later on. I was upset in the moment, having to walk all this way and whatnot. But later on, when I studied the Bible, I saw that no, my sister actually believes it. She held on. She didn't. Please me because I'm a brother. And no, she genuinely believes what she's teaching and what she lives by. And so for that, it actually moved my heart like, no, if she really believes it, then there must be something in this. She's willing to upset me, her own brother, for the sake of a sister's house or for some words in a book. There's something in this. And so our conviction genuinely can move people's hearts. Or even, people giving me time was one of the things that when you go out and share and you meet people, you get numbers, are they just a number too, or do you actually build a deep relationship? Do you get to know them? Do you ask deeper questions? Or is it just, let me grab a number and let me move on? Let me get all these contacts so that, Jordan stays off my back and doesn't call me about this 10th service. Or is it actually, I just want to go and build friends, and if they come, amen. If they don't, at least I built a friend. Just like Steph. She didn't know what was going to happen with Rebecca, and yet she was like, it's her birthday. She's here for 2 days. I'm going to pour my heart into her. And now we're seeing, the potential fruits of that, which is awesome. And the openness of people, them not being judgmental, that really moves people's hearts. When I was, the day of my baptism, which is almost 4 years ago today, I'm at church. It's, the fellowshipping beforehand. And, my sister there, Jess, who's a Christian, my younger sister who's not, and yeah, like, it's your baptism. You're meant to be excited. You're meant to be fired up. It's awesome. And yet, Jess could see me. She's obviously known me my whole life. She could see if something was off. She's like, Jordan, you don't look happy. What's going on? And I was just like, yeah, I don't know if I've got everything out, or I don't know I think there's just more in my chest I really need to get out. And she's like, well, go and talk to Sean now. Like, this is way more important than don't get baptized with this. Go and deal with it. I was like, yeah, well, it's 10 minutes to the church, and he's talking to someone. She's like, no, Jordan, like, this is serious. And so I could go, Sean, hey, can we chat? And he's like, yeah, sure. And, leisurely finishes up with the guy, like, all right, let's go. And right now it's like 5 minutes before church starts. And I'm like, well, we're going to be late for church if I have to go out. So maybe is it even worth going and confess it? I'm a people pleaser. So I was so much worried about what everyone else thought or what. But Sean didn't care. He's like, no, like, we'll take some time. We'll go out, sit on a bench, like, tell me what's up. And yeah, I was able to just get off the last few things on my chest, the darkest parts of my heart that I hadn't gotten off. And, I was expecting to feel, a judgment. Well, this guy's, now I really see how wicked he is. No, we can't baptize this guy. He's too sinful. He's too messed up. But instead, yeah, and so I was very nervous to tell him because I'm like, well, he's going to call off my baptism. Like, I can't get baptized. I'm just too wicked. And yet, he instead just shares vulnerably similar things that he's gone through, similar things he's struggled with, or things like this where I'm like, wow, I don't feel judged by him. I just feel welcomed. That if he was, as bad as he said he was, and he's able to stand before me and lead a church, then, maybe there's hope for me too. And so our vulnerability, our openness, our willingness to just share our lives moves people's hearts. It has such an impact. But the question is, are you that open with your flatmates? Are you that open with your disciples, with the people you study the Bible with? Do you see that as a tool to help win over their hearts? Or are you too afraid of them judging you? And so that's, there's some practicals, some examples of what motivates people to become Christians. But then say, you figure it out, study the Bible, you understand it, now you are a Christian. So we're going to look at point number 2, what changes people as disciples? So yeah, great, you're a disciple, now you might be doing well, so you're even given a chance to lead a group. But is your group doing well? Are you having a hard time motivating it? See, what helps my heart in thinking is, there is someone out there in the kingdom who could lead my group and do a lot better with it. That it's possible to move this group far better if, the right person did the right things. And so if it's not moving, then it's not the group's fault. It's the leader's fault. It's the head of the group. And it was really convicting. And I think even seeing Brisbane is a great example that they had 10-for-1 visitors. Each disciple had 10 visitors, not 10 confirmed on a prayer list, but 10 people, genuine physical people. You could see, like, there's too many. I can't talk to 10 people. And yet these are the same disciples that lived with us a month ago in Sydney. Same disciples that you were brothers and sisters with, the same disciples that were here passing out the trays. And so it's not because Brisbane is more open. You even ask Kevin. They're crazy up there. He felt normal when he went to Brisbane. He was like, these people are weird. No, he shared that. He was honest about that. So it's not Brisbane is more open. It's that they are more radical. So we often look at our disciples and want to help them change. We often have good hearts. But never forget that they desperately want to change too, but often lack the know-how. If people knew how to change, they wouldn't need us to study the Bible with them. They'd just go and do it. But we need to get in there and build their lives and help study the Bible with them before a Christian and afterwards. We've got to walk alongside people. And so not changing is a serious thing. And often not changing can lead to sadness, discouragement, and ultimately falling away. Proverbs 13:12 says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. So it's about inspiring people, giving people a vision. And up at, it was great seeing Yvette up there, an absolute legend. She was leading the Sisters of Encouragement, giving the speech and stuff. She was out there song leading every song, and even afterwards, seeing her in a Bible study that, she just poured her heart into this girl, and until I had to kind of shoo them off the chairs so I could pack up the final, they were the final 2 chairs. Like, she was really just spending a lot of time with this girl. But, after the service, Joe saw her and she looked a bit down because everyone she's invited, no one actually came from, her personal invitations. And so, that can be pretty discouraging. But Joe goes up to her and he approaches her and he's like, you know why God didn't let any one of your visitors come today? Because he knew that you needed to sit and study the Bible with someone else. Someone else's visitor is more open right now. He can bring out all your visitors next week, but he wanted you to study with this girl and get in with her. And, after that, she was like, okay, no, I see that. And yeah, obviously had poured her heart into this girl, and it was awesome just to see the impact that it had. But it's about inspiring people, not belittling them, but giving them something to hope in. But it's also about giving people lots of practicals. Joe was teaching Keanu, a lot of us, just how to raise special in an afternoon. He's like, it's very simple. Grab a piece of paper, write on it at the top, $3,000. A few lines down, $1,000. A few lines down, 500, 150, and leave spaces. And then think of everyone you know that has $3,000. Write them on that list. Everyone that has $1,000, write them on the list. Doesn't matter if they, want to give it to you or not. Just write them down. Because, some people might save up for holidays, some people, whatever it is. And then what you do is just call them up. I need $3,000. I'm raising money for churches. I'm raising money for God. Can I have $1,000? Whatever it is. And watch God do the work. A few years ago, the church here ran a marathon. I wasn't here, I wasn't a part of it, but I love just hearing about it, and it gives me faith to even preach about it. But they ran a marathon, and so for weeks they fundraised and collected, and, they raised some money and stuff, but there was still a long way to go. They're kind of failing. And so Joe pulls them all in a room and he writes down, okay, how much does everyone need to make? He writes it on a list. All right, this person, this person, this much, this much, this much. And he's like, all right, we're not leaving here until we raise the money. And so one of the sisters comes in and she's like, I only have 5 minutes. I've got to go to work. Like, I really need to be there. I can't be late. And he's like, all right, who do you know that can give you $3,000 right now? She's like, well, my grandparents, but they're persecutors. He's like, okay, who else? Well, my parents also have that, but they're also persecutors. And he's like, great, phone them up. She's like, no, you can't, I can't do that. They're going to persecute me more. Like, this is terrible. I've got to go. He's like, I've got 4 minutes. He's like, great, you're not leaving until you phone them up. So she's like, oh, okay. So, prays a frantic prayer. God, I don't know what to do. And, phones them up. And within 5 minutes, $2,000 from her grandparents, $1,000 from her parents, raises her special in literally 5 minutes. And then goes off to work and makes it on time. And that got all the disciples buzzing. And so, the disciples are like, well, who else do we know? And I think Millie had once dressed up as Serena Williams and posted on Instagram. And then Serena Williams liked the post. And she's like, well, I know Serena Williams. So, she reaches out to them and like, oh, well, I know this person. And then, and so I think by the end of the few hours, they raised, I think, over $12,000 just from sitting and phoning people. I know often how I raise my special is go digging holes and lifting bricks, and some of the brothers have done it with me, and it sucks. So I would much rather sit in a room with aircon and call some people for an hour. But it's about giving people practicals. There's so many ways to raise money in Sydney, but are you helping your people get on board? We've got to lead the way in that. And so we all became Christians, and we changed once. That power is still in us and available to us today. But it's also available in every single person we work with. Something that we can never forget. No matter how chaotic, no matter how disastrous their life is, they can change. Because if you think about it, we repented without the Holy Spirit. So you can very much repent with it, now that you have God's power on your side. And so what changed us as a disciple? Gone around and, again, asked various people, and these were the things, some of the answers they gave. They said, rebukes. See, this one is one that us young leaders, we like to use the most when it actually should be used the least. The rebukes should be far and few between when they're used, and they should be memorable. As a kid, I got smacked with a wooden spoon, broke a few of them because they smacked it so hard, and even, the soap in the mouth. Wash your mouth out if you say a bad word. But it wasn't too often because every time that happened, I'm like, oh, I'm not saying that one again. And so the hurt, the pain, whatever it was, caused you to really remember, that really hurt. That left a mark. I'm not doing that again. And so that's how a rebuke should be. And they don't have to be screaming or shouting. Sometimes it's just a whisper like, come on, bro. I thought you were better than that. Whatever it is. But sometimes they just cut so much like, man, I really let that guy down. Or I'm just wicked. And so you even think of like, look where Paul is at now. Man's got rebuked by Joe publicly. Where laid him out, and yet he is now getting free venues and free coconuts and living his life converting people in Fiji. I think another thing that motivates our hearts is convicting Bible studies. The Bible changes people, not your opinions. I probably just need to say that. It's not your opinions, not your thoughts, not your feelings. Oh, bro, I just feel like you're a bit of an idiot. That's not going to change anyone. I don't care how you feel. I am an idiot, but like you feeling that doesn't help me. Give me some scriptures. So it's the Bible that really convicts us. I remember being discipled by Emmanuel, and he's discipled me, and he calls me and he's like, Jordan, you're just prideful. And I was actually genuinely confused because I'm like I understand prideful, and often when you're prideful you don't see it. But in this situation I wasn't thinking of myself higher than I ought. I was like telling him, I'm like, Manuel, I can't do this. I'm not capable of this. And he was calling me out for being prideful. I was like, what is happening? Do you know what pride is? And then he goes, and we look at Moses. And as Moses goes and God approaches him, and he's like, God, please just send someone else. I can't speak well. I don't want to do it. Hurt my big toe. Like, he just has all these excuses. And Emmanuel's like, humility is having a sober judgment of yourself. So not too highly, but not too lowly either. A sober judgment. And you don't have that. You're talking, you're self-deprecating, you're talking all these things. You're just prideful. So I really read the book of Moses like very differently now, like amen. But just convicting Bible studies. There's so many things in OneNotes. There's, you go and build a great quiet time for the brother, for the sister. Write Bible discussions. These things to really help our brothers and sisters. We're all kind of get to the same place. It doesn't matter who gets there first, as long as we all get there. I think a fear of falling away can really motivate us. It's like you get with, people that have fallen away, and the hope is, to win them over, bring them back. But it's also just a very eye-opening experience. You're like, I don't want my life to be where their life is at. Not in a, self-righteous, condemning way, but just, God, thank you for allowing me to stay in the kingdom. The lives, Satan often, when people fall away, Satan makes their life enticing for the first few months. Maybe get a girlfriend or, get a nice job. But eventually it falls apart, however long it takes, because they're not right with God. And so fear of falling away motivates people. I think even feeling believed in, vision. We have the greatest Bible talk leader in the world in our church. He's believed it. He's not even here right now because he's out serving Melbourne. He was up last week helping Brisbane. He's Melbourne. Will he be here next week? I don't know. He might be setting up his own church. But we believe in him. He's got vision and he's doing great things with it. I think even personally, I was just reflecting, and I'm like, I've just been privileged to be believed in by my parents. That parents believing in you, like your mentors, whatever it is, believing in you, drives out so much insecurity, because they gave me things to challenge me and told me that you can achieve great things, regardless of whether I could or not. At least I was believed in enough to feel like I could. And even Emmanuel and Effie, they're training me up as I was in the north. And they'd tell me, I'm going to raise you up as to take over one day. I didn't believe them. I didn't believe it myself. As you can see, I didn't think any of that could happen. And yet, God has blessed me to the point where I'm standing before you preaching. And so believing in people just has such a massive impact. There's other things. Friendships. You see Danny and Gabe, Sharif and Jacques. Like, they're just, friendships can win over so many people's hearts. How many people bring in their friends into the kingdom? It's great. Even I was just hanging out with Jono after, which is Jeremy's brother. He brought him along, and we hang out on last Monday. We got pizzas together and just hang out and chatted about the decorations and we just had a lot of fun. But friendships can move people's hearts along so much. And so there's many examples here. Understanding how much your sin affects others. addressing it with people. Bro, that just hurt. I expected more from you. I was waiting for you at the Bible study. You didn't show up on time. It just hurts. Addressing it with people because they need to understand how much their sin is hurting people so that it can help them change. Others' personal example, disciples having deep conviction at my sin, or even an expectation to do something. Why did Brisbane have 104 visitors with 9 disciples? Yeah, there was a few family members and whatnot, but it was because of expectations. Solomon Meggs expected each mission team member to get 25 contacts a week. Elias do a full-time job. Other people they've got busy schedules. In 100 contacts in 4 weeks leading up to the service. And so we've been talking about 10 for the 10th and the 10th anniversary for a while now. Or, even the fasting on Thursday until you find your 3 of these kind of things. But Bible Talk leaders, do you have an expectation of your group to have the most at the service? Are you fasting with your people until they find theirs? Or do I have to, keep phoning you up, keep pestering you, doing what you should already be doing and helping you find these people? Or even just as Christians, just as disciples, each one of us, are you expecting to bring out the most you've ever brought out before? What's the most you've ever brought out? 6, 7? Add one more to it. What can really God do through your faith? Are you planning on hiring a go-get van, as Joe suggested? Bring a busload of people. It was great. Jan, he keeps messaging me. He's like, hey, I've got my whole family coming out on the list. Here's this name, this name, this name. And then later on in the week, he's like, hey, can you add this to the list? He's just really going after it. This is a young Christian that's, probably has hardly any contacts in his folk because he's just a young Christian and never done a push service before. But is he going to be bringing out more people than you have this Sunday? So I want to give you a challenge. I was thinking about what's something that actually can, convict my own heart, that I need to get behind, that'll help me, but it'll help the church as well. And, I was like, we could do, we get a confirmation each day or, by Sunday have it all. But I was like, no, we need to do something radical. If Brisbane can do 9 and bring out that many people, and we are the mother church that has sent out 9 churches, then we can be radical too. And so the challenge is, find the rest of your visitors by Wednesday night after midweek. And if not, fast with me Thursday until you do. Fasting has an incredible way of not only moving our hearts, but moving God's hearts. And you'll see what God can do. So if Elias and Mel, that he can go out, get 25 contacts in a week with a full-time job and a busy schedule, and collectively, him and his wife bring more visitors to Sunday service than we had collectively as a church last week, then we can most definitely go out and find people that want to come for the free food, that want to come for the word of God. It's not about the openness of people. People are open. It's about faith and hard work. So yeah, there's point 3, but you can read that on your own time. I don't want to go over time here. In conclusion, the title of my lesson is How to Move the Hearts of People. Point number 1, what changes people when becoming a Christian? Ultimately, it's love. That's really what the premise of the Bible is. But you got to go and look, what moved me? Why did I feel loved by the Christians? Why did I say yes? Why did I meet that random guy on the street? And why am I here now? What moves the hearts of people? Point number 2, what changes people as disciples? You have the Holy Spirit. You are able to change. But what are you going to do about it? So we must throw all our energy into saving others and making them great. Struggle with them and for them until we get to heaven. So let's go out, have a blowout of an anniversary service, really go after it this week and start the year off with some awesome baptisms. The challenge for you is find the rest of your visitors by midweek on Wednesday or fast with me Thursday until you do. To God be all the glory.